When you pay the $10 for an audio guide, but it's an old Italian man who calls you lady instead. This is Journey to Italy.
Hi, Jackie.
Hi, Greg.
Welcome to our show, Seen and Heard, which is all about the Sight and Sound greatest films of all time list. We used to say top 100, but pretty soon we'll be going beyond the 100.
Yeah, isn't that crazy how that happens?
So we should just get used to saying greatest films of all time.
Yeah.
Before we get into our film this week, we just wanted to read. We've had kind of a slew of really nice reviews come in from all of our great listeners, especially in Apple Podcasts. And
because apparently that's the only one you can leave reviews on. I didn't know that.
Yeah, of the main ones, because you can't leave a review on Spotify. You just rate stuff.
Yeah, someone wrote my absolute favorite podcast. Seeing that Greg and Jackie have dropped a new podcast is one of the true highlights of my week. They are such great hosts and personalities and have added much joy to much journey.
My journey, probably.
Through the SNS 250 list. I wish Greg was a bit nicer to Godard, but c'est la vie. Thank you for all your hard work, JNG, your friend Marshall. Thank you, Marshall.
Yeah, that's so sweet.
Really
that is
sweet.
really, really kind of you. And I also wish I was kinder to Godard. We have another 5-star review from Kevin Talking Head in Great Britain, who says, my favorite film podcast discovery of the past few years. It's a nice combination of highbrow film criticism with down-to-earth presenters. Has a really fun, inclusive vibe to it, and it's never pretentious just for the sake of it. My favorite ep, ironically, is not one of the top 100. And the review actually cuts off there. Where did I see though?
I remember.
Oh,
he said
Francis
it was
Ha.
Francis Ha.
Yeah, it said
That's
it was
so
Francis
nice.
Ha, which is one of your personal prints that you brought to the show. And I think, it cut off on whatever I'm looking at it on. Because strangely enough, Apple does not show you reviews not from your country.
Mm-hmm.
So we got that from like an aggregator or some other site that sends us reviews of listeners from other countries. But I think he said something like, you can really feel their love for film in that Francis Ha episode.
Aw.
And then I was like looking back on it, I'm
really
like,
sweet.
I was like, I remember I had some quibbles about Francis Ha, so hopefully I didn't sound too much like a jerk. But
You had quibbles about Francis Ha?
yeah, I mean, I don't think it's like a masterpiece.
Oh, it's really sad for you.
I'm fine with it. And then there's one more. Do you want to read it? Or do you want me to read it?
You can go for it.
Okay, one more. So yeah, we got 3 really nice reviews. Thank you all so much for writing in and
Thank you.
supporting the show, because all this stuff really does go a long way. You know, the more positive reviews or just reviews we have in general, especially in Apple, you know, because it is like the biggest platform, the bigger the reach the show has. So this is all really helpful. But someone said, come for the movies, stay for the hosts. We've all been there. We've finally found movies that we want to hear talked about, and the hosts ruin the whole thing. Not the case here. Greg and Jackie are amazing, and they bounce off each other really well, and they make it worth listening. A Mike Nichols and Elaine May duo in the making.
That is so nice.
It's like
that
the
is
highest
like the
compliment.
nicest thing I've ever heard.
I know. I was like,
That's really sweet.
I was just laughing when I read that because it's just so ridiculously complimentary that like this from someone,
that is
Mario.
really, really sweet.
Yeah.
And I feel like we are like Nichols and May.
Hey, I didn't want to say it. You know, I was waiting for someone else to say it. So
That's so sweet.
So yeah, no, thank you. These kind words mean so much to us.
They really do.
We're a small show. It's an independent show. So we run off nice words, kind words. And, you know, that's
They're all we have.
Exactly. It's all we have. Anyway, Jackie, before we get into the film this week, which we have not mentioned yet. Well, you mentioned at the beginning.
It's called Journey to Italy.
Journey to Italy. What's the number on the list?
It's number 41.
41.
On the 2012 list, and number 72 on the 22 list.
Oh, so it's still on the list.
Yeah.
I didn't check, and I thought this had fallen off.
Really? You just assumed it?
It seems like a movie that would fall off. Yeah.
Like, really? Wow.
Yeah.
Can't wait to talk about that.
What have you been watching, though, Jackie? That's not Journey to Italy.
Oh, I saw Shampoo for the first time.
First time.
Yeah, it's fun, but it's a fun, if not, like, it's a bit on the nose, I think. Just like a 70s good time.
Hal Ashby.
It's kind of on the nose. Right? 'Cause it's like
Sure.
set against Nixon and like, we get it, Nixon. And they're like watching the TV. They're like, well, we hope he'll be better. And it's like, come on. And it was made after, like it's set in 1968.
Yeah. Made in the mid 70s.
So I just thought it was a little on the nose, but it
great
was fun.
soundtrack on that one.
Yeah, good soundtrack. Yeah. Fun time. That's all I can ask for.
And Warren Beatty's pretty great in it.
He's so good in it.
Yeah. Yeah, I think some people consider it, like a lot of people like, that's the best Hal Ashby movie. I'm like,
there's no way.
So there's probably
like,
at least 2 or 3 I like more than Shampoo.
Me too.
And I like Shampoo, but like
I
The
like
Last
it.
Detail, Harold and Maude.
Harold and Maude is a masterpiece. The Landlord.
I haven't seen that one.
Oh my God.
You know what? Hot take. I've only seen it once, but I do not love Being There
Haven't seen it.
with Peter Sellers. People love that movie. Thought it was okay.
Haven't seen it.
Hot take. So those are your watches, huh?
Yeah. What are your watches?
Well, I was under the weather, so I didn't see as much as I wanted to. Oh, I saw Prince of Egypt.
You did?
Yeah,
You
I saw
watched
Prince
my
of Egypt. I
Blu-ray?
did, yeah.
Did you like it?
You know what? I did like it. And it's very, very kind of course, it's Moses. It's very Jesus-y. It opens with the quote. And I knew it was the Moses story and everything. But it's well done. It's well done.
So well done.
It's beautifully drawn. And I love DreamWorks in the sense of that film. Like, they did not feel the need to have comedic relief. Like, the closest you get are like the Pharaoh's henchmen, the Steve Martin and Martin Short characters.
Yeah.
And their song, You're Playing with the Big Boys Now, was a tad questionable.
I like that song.
You like that song?
Yeah, I like all the songs in there.
That one didn't quite do it for me. That whole sequence, I was like, okay, so now you're verging into like the Disney territory.
What
But
about the River of Blood?
no.
I mean, like,
No, but
that's-
seriously,
yeah.
the rest of the film, like that slight misstep aside, I thought the rest of the film was like very impressive. It's very movie that opens with slaves getting whipped,
literally,
and doesn't try to let the air out of it. You know,
no.
one of my big faults of the Lion King is like Mufasa dies, and then 5 minutes later,
Timon and Pumbaa come by.
yeah, and they're like farting and stuff, and I'm like, give me a second to process this like
Yeah,
really tragic
you're
thing.
so right,
And Disney
yeah.
always undercuts, like they're so afraid that
Yeah.
like the kids are gonna leave or be upset. I'm like, let them be upset for a while. It's an upsetting thing.
This movie is so upsetting. I couldn't watch this movie as a kid.
Oh really?
Maybe I saw it like 3 times as a child. I was so scared.
Well, that's still that's
It's
3 times.
scary though.
Yeah. No, but it was good.
The River of Blood is crazy. The Passover scene is like frightening. A child dies in front of our eyes.
That's yeah.
Several.
And the parting of the sea scene.
Parting of the Sea scene
certainly.
is great.
Yeah. No, well done.
Yeah.
Well
I'm
done.
glad you liked it.
I rewatched The Blues Brothers. I hadn't seen this.
You don't look happy.
No. So like my dad loved this movie and I watched it as a kid and I did not get it. Have you seen it?
I've never seen it. All I've seen is from when I go to Universal Studios,
yeah.
right? And they're always out there.
Well, not
I'm like,
anymore.
What is this movie?
Maybe
Growing
like
up,
20
they
years
were.
ago. Yeah.
Like, what the heck is this?
It's very much a movie of its time. And I don't think it's a movie that has like I don't think it's going to last. But you know what? I get it now. And I really liked it. I really liked it. It's a movie all about performance, you know?
Yeah.
And like it's like Aretha Franklin.
I was gonna say, isn't there
and
was
Cab
some
Calloway,
singer
like
in it?
Ray Charles is in it. Like they get all these like legends, and they all get performances in this movie.
I remember
And
that there were
it's-
singers.
Yeah, it's John Landis' second film. He made it right before he made American Werewolf in London, and he's a problematic person, but there's no denying his talent in that early stage, like Animal House, this American Werewolf. Like he's an insanely talented director, and he did the Thriller video, of course. That's like one of his biggest claims to fame. But yeah, it's holds up. Anyway, should we get into this week's film from 1954? This is Roberto Rossellini's Journey to Italy.
Oggi sto tanto allegra che quasi quasi mamma te s'acchiagnano tante a felicità. Mio vero, non mio vero, che so tornata a Napoli, mio vero che stucca.
Journey to Italy, also known as Voyage to Italy, was released in 1954. It was directed by Roberto Rossellini, written by Vitaliano Brancati and Roberto Rossellini, inspired by a script called New Vine by Antonio Pietrangeli. It is based loosely on the 1934 novel Duo by Colette. Cinematography by Enzo Serafin and music by Renzo Rossellini. Journey to Italy tells the story of Catherine and Alex Joyce, a married couple from England who have traveled to Italy to settle the inheritance of a villa near Naples left to Alex from his uncle. Once there, Alex and Catherine open up about the disintegration of their relationship and their buried resentments toward each other. Catherine reveals that before their marriage, a poet and soldier by the name of Charles Lewington was in love with her. Lewington was stationed in the Naples area during the war, and she visits the museum he once wrote about. She continues to tour the sites. Alex leaves her to go to Capri for a few days, where he tries and fails to spend the night, first with a friend of theirs, then with a prostitute. Eventually, they agree to divorce. Before they can make it official, however, the caretaker of the estate, Tony, insists on taking them to Pompeii to witness a once-in-a-lifetime excavation. There, archaeologists pour plaster into the hollow shells and lava where human bodies once were, revealing the shape of a couple at the moment they died. Catherine is overcome and asks Alex to take her home. They are caught in a religious procession in town, and Catherine gets lost in the crowd. She makes her way back to Alex, and the two embrace, reconciling their differences and declaring their love as the crowd continues to walk on by. The film stars Ingrid Bergman as Catherine Joyce, George Sanders as Alex Joyce, and Anthony LaPena as Tony. This is the third film Ingrid Bergman made with Rossellini. Their first film, Stromboli, was released in 1950. The two started their affair on the set of Stromboli, and Bergman's resulting pregnancy caused a huge scandal in Hollywood. She and her Swedish husband at the time, Peter Aaron Lindstrom, were separated but still legally married when she became pregnant. She was able to obtain a divorce a week after her son with Rossellini was born, and they got married a few months after. But the scandal reached Washington, where Senator Edwin C. Johnson used her as an anecdote for his proposed bill about movies only being granted licenses if they hit their moral marks. He called her a powerful influence for evil.
Dear God.
And so she stayed away from Hollywood for a while. And after Stromboli, they would make Europe 51 in 1952, then Journey to Italy, our film today. They then made a film called Fear in 1954. And the last film they made together was Joan of Arc at the Stake in 1954. She only returned to Hollywood after she and Rossellini separated. Rossellini apparently wanted to adapt Duo by Colette, but he couldn't obtain the rights, and he also took from a script by Pietrangeli about an English couple arguing while driving through Naples in a Jaguar. But really, the film was almost entirely improvised. So Rossellini was erratic with the schedule. He would take days off at a time if he wasn't feeling inspired. The actors received their lines the morning of. And even Ingrid Bergman, who had worked with him before, was kind of shocked at his level of unprofessionalism. George Sanders had a really hard time. His anxiety was through the roof, apparently. He was talking to his therapist every night. He was bursting out in tears. Eventually, Rossellini called George Sanders' wife at the time, Zsa Zsa Gabor, to come to set because he was in such bad shape because of just how, erratic Rossellini was. It took a year and a half to find a distributor for the film. So it was released in Italy, but the dubbing was really bad. In 1955, the film was cut from 105 minutes to 88 minutes for its release in France as L'amour est plus fort. The American release was in 1955 and had an 80-minute runtime. And then in Britain, in 1958, it was released as 70 minutes, and it was called The Lonely Woman. So it went from Love is Stronger in France, The Lonely Woman in Britain, and in the States, I believe it was Journey to Italy, but in Italian it was Voyage to Italy.
Wow.
So it had a really weird distribution history.
And the version on the Criterion channel I watched was like 88 minutes.
I believe that was, So that must be like the French one?
Yeah, sounds like it. I wonder if the full one is lost.
I wonder. it did really bad at the box office, and basically only the Cahiers du Cinema guys liked it. No one else really liked it. And as far as I can tell, it only showed up on the Sight and Sound list in 2012. It wasn't on it before.
Oh, okay. And now it's on the new one.
And now it's still in the 2022 one.
Huh.
Those are my specs. There's not much on this movie.
Yeah.
Which is weird to me because going into this, I thought this was like a giant of like Italian cinema. Like I thought this was like a big Rossellini Bergman movie. So I don't know. I was a little shocked.
I know his big one is he has Paisan, and I think he has Rome Open City, right?
Yes.
I haven't seen either of those.
Me neither. I've only seen Stromboli.
Honestly, same. Stromboli.
Yeah.
Because I thought it was about the Pinocchio villain now.
That's what it was. I've been trying to remember what is Stromboli.
Yeah, Pinocchio. Yeah.
What are your initial thoughts?
So, first of all, funny that we're already back in Italy. I feel like we've spent a lot of time in
Right?
Italy lately, and very much movies about Italy.
Yes.
Right? It's not just set in Italy, but it's about Italy.
You're right.
I liked this. Like you, I hadn't heard much about this movie, and
I had heard.
oh, okay, you had.
I'm saying I had.
Right,
I thought
you
it was
had.
like this big movie.
Yeah, I didn't know what to expect going in. I didn't know the synopsis. You just went in pretty blind. I didn't see this 10 years ago, much to your surprise. But yeah, I thought it was good. I liked it. I'm not like ecstatic about it because I think it's a movie that's hard to be passionate about because of the nature of the movie.
Yeah.
It's almost kind of like, I'm sure a big influence on Linklater for something like Before Midnight, right? In a way. So many films, La Notte, where a L'Avventura, about a marriage dissolving.
Contempt.
I know it's a big influence on Godard for sure. I think the thing about this movie is that I admire its simplicity. It is told very, very simply, and I like that, and it's all framed around this couple visiting Italy. And I get the sense that the George Sanders character has never been there before, right? She has. I think she lived there for a while. He's never been. That's the sense I get from the movie because he's like racist in the movie. I mean, he's like not enjoying Italy or Italians. I don't understand how that's possible. But yeah, I liked it. I don't feel strongly about it. It definitely leaves you in kind of a dour mood, but which is obviously the intent of the movie. And I think in so many ways is very realistic because so much of the movie is a couple kind of just ignoring each other and in this comfortable rut where they're just like, this is how it's been. You get the sense that this is how it's been for a long time. It's not an uplifting movie. And in the way that so many tragedies can be kind of big and operatic, this is small and minor key and really, really minimal. So yeah, I liked it. I'm not going to, I did say I was surprised it was on the 2022 list just because I don't really hear people talking about it. And certainly watching it in prep for this episode, I didn't think that this is one of the 100 greatest films ever made.
Yeah.
But I did like it. So it's kind of a lukewarm. I like it. I don't want to say lukewarm. I like the movie.
Give it like 4 stars on Letterboxd.
Yeah, that means, look, this is
That's
really
high.
solid. The really solid no notes, basically. But
Really? 4 stars is no notes for you?
I mean, basically, it's like, yeah. I mean, would I do things differently? Yes. But like, I just don't feel strongly about it.
Yeah.
But I'm like, yeah, that's really good. Like, anyway. How about you?
So I think this is the first time in a really long time where neither of us have seen the movie before.
Yeah, I think so.
Like first?
I don't remember the last time that happened.
Me neither.
Yeah.
I was very excited to see this, and I'm glad I finally did. But yeah, I'm not going to lie. I found it a little underwhelming at times. I think it's a really solid base to everything that would come after it. Like we kind of touched. I mean, like, what is Contempt without this movie? What is L'Avventura without this movie? Like, even like the religious procession stuff, like it almost reminded me of like La Dolce Vita and like all of those. Like, I feel like a lot of those Italian movies at the time have a religious procession, right?
Yeah.
Cabiria even has it. So like
Even The Godfather.
Yeah, The Godfather. There's always a festa, right? Always. I don't know if I want more about the couple or I want them to be together more throughout it, but I definitely love everything he's doing with the setting and the environment and the museums. And yeah, I hate to say this, but I kind of want more drama. Do you know what I mean?
Yeah.
The patterns that he's creating with the sequences where she's driving, like I love that stuff. But I think maybe like one more conversation, and they have good conversations. Like maybe I needed like one more at the start, but I mean, we'll get into it. But there's a book about Rossellini by Peter Brunet, and I read some of the chapter on this movie, and he really describes it as a movie that you have to see more than once. And I get it, because even going back, like prepping for this episode, rewatching clips and stuff, I was like, oh wow, like I didn't notice that. Oh, that is cool. Like, so I definitely think it's probably better on a rewatch. But 1954 is interesting because we did Sancho the Bailiff, right? That was 54.
Yeah.
Wild Strawberries, 1954. Night of the Hunter was 55. But it's been nice seeing these almost revolutionary 50s movies and how influential they could be. So I think this was like really part of that series.
Right.
And another thing I didn't quite understand, because when you read about it, and even towards the end, it's clear like they don't have children. But very early in the movie, she goes, I wish John and Dorothy could have come with us. I thought those were their kids.
Right. Yeah.
Right?
Well, it's like I kind of love that in a movie where you're just kind of dropped in and they're like, figure out the relationships, you know? Yeah, like they don't hold your hand through it.
Yeah, and I don't think I need that, but I don't know.
Yeah.
Similar maybe to the relationship in Midsummer?
Oh, yeah. Well, it's funny. When I was watching this, I was like, 2 breakup movies in a row.
I know, but this movie ends happy.
I don't know that it's so happy, to be honest.
I think it's supposed to be. At least I think the intention was this very like transcendental, like, miracles happen.
Oh, I don't buy that
If
at all.
you
It doesn't
believe.
fit with the film's tone at all.
I don't know.
No. I think it's like in the way that you're breaking up. Well, sure, let's touch on the ending.
Let's just jump.
Because it's such a big part of the movie, right?
And it's very iconic, I feel like.
I feel like you can't have a movie that the whole time, like, it's so obvious to the audience why their relationship is not working. Like, they're just 2 people that shouldn't be together. So they're not going to have some big, in the way that when you are breaking up in real life, it almost hurts too much. So you do kind of work on it for a second before then realizing, no, we're done. You know, it's like that moment of like, they need the comfort because they've been in so much despair over there. Like, this is the first time they're really facing, like, they've each known like this marriage is dead. But I think this trip they're putting into words. They're like, we're done. They start using the D word. Right. And so I think the end is like a necessary coming together, but I don't think it's a happy ending. I think they're still getting divorced. I think it's still what are they saying? Annie Hall, Dead Shark?
No, I don't know if they're still getting divorced.
Oh, I think
I
sure.
love when he's like, all right, let's get a divorce. And then it's like, hello, someone like that Tony guy comes.
Oh, yeah. Well, because he wants to show him Pompeii.
Yeah.
He's like, I must insist.
I know. Like, geez, so pushy.
It's like they don't want to go. You know, it's funny. I was by there because we went to Naples because we went to Positano, which is just off Naples. So we took the train from Rome to Naples, and we had a driver take us to Positano, and you pass Pompeii on the freeway. I've never been to Pompeii, but we had just not worked it into our itinerary because we didn't want to like overcrowd the trip and stuff. And the driver was like, honestly, he's like, you don't even need to go. He's like, just look. He's like, you could see it from the freeway. So like as we were driving, he just like pointed to Pompeii,
nice.
like the ruin, like the. So
that's great. So you've seen it. I've never seen it.
I've seen it from a distance.
I think maybe I have a problem because from the outset they have that conversation where it's like it's very early on in the movie, and Catherine says, ever since we came on this trip, I realized we're like strangers. But like, it's showing and not telling. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
It's like right at the start.
Yeah.
And it's like, what happened? I don't know.
I agree.
But there's also little details. Like, I really appreciate the little details. Like, I love when she says, like, let's go get a drink. Like, at least there'll be other people around. And he goes like, what? Like, I'm not enough. And like, that's great. And then, yeah, like they meet their friends and he goes, oh, it's a business trip. And she goes, oh, it's a pleasure trip too. Like little things like that I love. And the fact that they agree to go to dinner, right, with those friends without even discussing it. Like we don't cut to a scene where they're like, should we go? Should we not go? It's like they just had that conversation in their room about other people. Then they run into the other people and they're like, let's go.
Yeah.
There's no he doesn't give it like its special significant moment, and that's what I love about it, like keeping it as a small detail. The other couple, right, the caretakers, when Alex is he wants to get more wine, right, and he goes to their window and they're clearly either like having an afternoon shag or they're just sleeping, like little things like that, you know, and she like covers herself up and it's like, look at this other couple and what they're doing, they're cuddling. And the couple that's fighting outside their window, and the caretakers come in and go like, oh, you know, like they're about to get married and look how much they're fighting. And Ingrid Bergman's character goes like, oh, the time before marriage is a very delicate one. And she like kind of just turns away. But then Alex is like, whoa, you're telling me this now after you just told me about this guy that was in love with you before, like that came on the eve of our wedding.
Yeah.
So it's like I love those like little details a lot. But yeah, I think I just like, whenever we're told from the very start, like, the second we got here, you've been acting weird, but we haven't seen any of it. Like, that's maybe a little, I don't know.
But again, it's the kind of thing where like this walked so other movies can run.
So much so, and I appreciate it for that so much.
I think for 1954, the fact that it is so kind of uneventful, right? It's like we had Roman Holiday, right? Roman Holiday had come out before this, I think.
Yeah.
The fact that this is so like the anti-Roman Holiday, right?
Yes.
You're getting all the touristy stuff, and I do love you see all these excursions that they both go on, the museums and all that stuff, the ruins.
Yeah.
I love that stuff. But like, yeah, I mean, as the marriage quietly falls apart, right? It's not loud. It's not a Cassavetes film.
Which I like.
Yeah.
But yeah, maybe, and I love the conversations they do have. Like, I love some of the stuff they say, like when he says like, since we realized how little we meant to each other, she says, I don't even remember. And he says, it's rather surprising to hear you say that what I felt was important to you. And like, I love stuff like that.
Yeah.
Yeah. It's obvious there's jealousy there, right? On both parts. And if they didn't care about each other, like they wouldn't be jealous, I think. Like, so clearly, like, I don't know. What is it exactly, you know? Like, it makes me want to know. And he, like, can't cheat on her despite trying. It makes me want to know so bad. Because, like, he's just a dick. Like, what's his problem, you know? Like, with her, okay, we get it. Like, maybe she was in love with that guy before, and he's a dick. So, like, what's his problem with her? Is he just an asshole?
Yeah. Well, then you see how charming he can be with, like, other women.
Yeah.
Like the woman on crutches or whatever.
You know, I always thought George Sanders was gay.
Oh, no.
In like All About Eve, maybe because I've only really seen him in All About Eve, and he's like probably gay in that.
Yeah, I know what you mean. But he was married to both Gabor sisters.
Oh, yes, I knew that.
He was married to her sister later.
Yeah,
he was married like 6 times. Do you know his story?
No.
It's dark. It's dark. Wait, first of all, do you recognize his voice?
Yeah, from Jungle Book.
Yeah, Shere Khan.
Yeah.
I remember the first I think the first live action movie I saw him in was Rebecca.
Oh, yes, he's in Rebecca too.
And I spent the whole movie and I was like, wait, I know that voice. And then I was like, that's Shere Khan.
Yeah.
When I was little, my mom would make me mad. I'd be like, okay, Shere Khan. And she'd be like, don't you call me that. She would like get really mad.
What a random thing
I don't know why
your
Shere
mom.
Khan. But no, his story is sad. He like got dementia, and I remember he was like he was a great pianist or something and couldn't play anymore. And so there's a story about him like taking his piano out back and just like smashing it up with an axe, and then he killed himself.
He did?
He killed himself.
I didn't know that.
And his suicide note, actually I have it right here. He said, "Dear world, I am leaving because I am bored. I feel I have lived long enough. I am leaving you with your worries in this sweet cesspool. Good luck."
Oh my goodness.
I feel like that this movie you see in a different context because of that.
Totally.
Because honestly, that's kind of the character here too.
Yeah, definitely.
Because he's pretty miserable in this.
He's miserable, and he's the opposite of everyone in La Ventura and La Dolce Vita, right? He's always wanting to work. He's always talking about laziness.
Yeah.
It's funny because they go to that party, right? And they talk about it at that party. Those people are talking to her, and they say like dolce far niente, and they translate it and they're like, how sweet it is to do nothing, right? Like those are the people of La Ventura and La Dolce Vita, literally. And he is just not, he can't do that.
Yeah, all of his value is tied up in work.
Yeah, and he says, he's like, I've never seen noise and boredom go so well together. And knowing that on a suicide, that's crazy.
Yeah. I know people like this. I know people not saying so much his case in real life, but in the film, where his entire value is tied up in his work. It's never good. It's never, ever good.
It's awful. And like when he's trying to get more wine, right? And he opens the door and like the servants are asleep. Like they're taking a nap and then they start yelling at him. And he's like, how dare you speak to me like that?
Yeah, how dare you? Then later too, he has a line. What does he say? All those Italians milling around you. He says it to Ingrid. And I'm like, okay, bro.
Oh my god!
Like clearly the Italians are a threat in this movie. I mean, he's the stuffy British guy,
he's
right?
The stuffiest, the most uptight. He's the opposite of the poet guy that was in love with her, right?
Yeah,
the absolute opposite.
Well, because there's not a bone of like, I mean, I guess we see it later, but there's not a bone of like passion in him or even compassion, empathy.
Nothing.
Like he's so unempathetic that.
He sucks, honestly.
He sucks. Well, I think that's one of the things about the movie. Like, I think I would be more passionate about the film if it was a little bit more level between the two of them. Because, like, it's clear what's wrong in this relationship. It's him.
It's him. So, exactly. So, like, what's her problem? She's just Ingrid Bergman, and she's awesome.
Yeah, no, exactly. Exactly. So... But again, that's probably how a lot of relationships are not 50-50 at fault, right? It's usually more one person.
Yeah.
So I guess it's real in that sense.
Yeah. Do you know how old was he when he committed suicide?
I think he was in his 60s or 70s.
Poor guy.
He was 65.
Wow.
He killed himself in Barcelona.
Aww. So... let's talk about kind of this like mixing, this very influential style of like making this movie, right? Like it's essentially mixing like ethnography and fiction, right? It's like he's just getting in the streets, he's shooting on the streets, he's getting all of these towns and villages. And I love, he has a quote, Rossellini has a quote that says, I consider Viaggio, which is Voyage to Italy, to be very important in my work. It was a film which rested on something very subtle, the variations in a couple's relationship under the influence of a third person, the exterior world surrounding them.
Yeah.
Such a good quote.
Yeah,
and such a good, like, is this truly like the first movie of its kind of like, I don't know if it is, I'm just asking, like, is it where it's like a relationship set against the backdrop of this environment and this space?
Right.
Maybe. There's an Agnes Varda movie too. It's called La Pointe Courte, it's about a couple in a town, and it's like a mix of exactly that, like kind of like nonfiction and then like their story, but it's very much like tied to the town. So super, I think this movie is very influential, probably to more things than we realize.
No, absolutely. And that, I think it comes through too, right? I mean, I like it a lot. It's just that I don't feel...
You're right.
Yeah.
Me neither. I feel the same way as you. Even Stromboli is set on a volcanic island. Do you remember? It's about like it's a relationship that's also dying. Like she marries this guy and she doesn't realize how like rough and hard this place is. And they literally live on a volcano.
Yeah, exactly.
It's like,
yeah.
So it's so good. I love that. And yeah, the way Antonioni too is using space in his relationships as well. And there was a movie last year called A Fire, a German movie. And that definitely, there's like a forest fire. They're in the small beach town and there's a forest fire. And it's like these relationships that are falling apart too. But I love that this one, the way his style of like, I'm going to shoot outside of the car, like what's going on outside the car while they're driving. Mm-hmm. And it starts with the cows on the road, right? Which is like simple enough. It's to a point where you don't know that this is going to become a thing, right? Because I feel like you always see cows on the road while people are driving. But then you get into like Catherine's driving and her going to these sites, right? I'm not crazy about talking to herself.
Yeah.
But it's Ingrid Bergman, so I also don't care.
She pulls it off. She pulls it off. And I do think, again, it's a way, because this movie is kind of early on in this kind of specific genre, and it's just kind of a cheat to like get inside of her head a little bit. But I know what you mean. It feels a little old-fashioned.
Maybe.
Right?
Yeah, but she sees like, I want to know how much of this was planned, like the exteriors, right? Like, did he... Because she sees soldiers. I feel like it's all like her insecurities, right? Everything she sees is like significant. She sees a group of soldiers after just telling us about that soldier that was in love with her. Like, did Rossellini get extras to wear soldier outfits and shoot them walking down the street.
Something tells me he just captured it as it happened.
And nuns too.
Yeah.
There's the nuns, and she like has fun honking at them. Like, that's kind of fucked up.
Yeah.
That's her moment, like in La Ventura when he knocks down the ink.
Oh, the ink. Yeah.
Exactly. She sees a funeral, right? She sees all the women with strollers, and then all the pregnant women. She says like, oh my God, everyone's pregnant here.
Yeah.
So it's like, do we need the commentary? Maybe not.
Yeah, maybe
we're getting
not.
it visually.
Yeah. What do you think about the children thing? Because that's at the end of the movie, like she reveals like, maybe we should have had children. And he's like, well, you didn't want them. And I agreed with you.
Why didn't she want them again? I forgot. Was there a reason or?
I don't remember if
No
there was a
reason given?
reason.
Yeah. I mean, it's like in a weird way, children confirm that you've had sex at least once. Right?
That's true.
So
Yeah.
it's like, I think it's very significant that they don't have children. But I was confused because at the start when they're driving and she says, oh, I wish Dorothy and John could have come with us. And then he says like, this is the first time we've really been alone in our marriage. I was like, oh, those are their kids. Like, I really thought those were their kids.
I got the sense that they were like newlyweds.
Yeah. How have they never been alone? It seems like
Yeah.
all they've been is alone with each other.
Yeah. Well, I think he
If they
keeps
don't have
himself so
kids.
baried in his work and all
Maybe.
that entails like socially, right?
Sure. Yeah, definitely. So yeah, them not having kids, it just makes it they're not in love with each other and they don't have kids that they collectively love. So like, what is this relationship?
Yeah.
It's super important that they don't have kids.
You definitely feel the absence of kids in this movie because when you do see them, when she's driving past them and stuff, it feels kind of jarring.
Yeah, definitely.
Not that there's
And-
any kids in like La Ventura. Or am I? All right.
No, but remember in La Dolce Vita when the kids do show up?
The Madonna. Oh!
No,
the
the
Friends,
Friends
kids.
kids.
Yes, the guy that Steiner.
Yes, the Friends kids. Yeah, and then of course, like just the significance of this was the place that guy was stationed, right?
Yeah.
And then you have Pompeii, of course, in the end.
I do love that that's where the guy was stationed because you feel his ghost through the movie.
Definitely.
Like her
He says, like,
chasing
your
his
pilgrimages.
ghost. Yeah.
And the gorgeous last shot of, like, that procession of people just, like, walking past and, like, carrying on with their lives. Meanwhile, this is going on.
Yep, like every day.
I love it.
Everyday
I
life.
love that. It's a very beautiful last shot.
So you think it's a hopeful ending?
I think it's meant to be. I don't know if it succeeds.
But what do you personally think?
I found it a little, when I watched it, I didn't find it convincing. I
No.
was like, okay. But then like I started reading up on it and yeah, people are talking about transcendentalism and like all this stuff. And I'm like, and they said like, oh, it's the side of, like, it's a religious thing. That blind man is like, it's implied that like a miracle is happening, right? With this like procession. And so that's what people attribute it to, of like, everything is pointing to they shouldn't get back together, and yet they do. And that's the miracle of the movie.
I think if that's the ending, then I hate the movie.
That's fair.
That's seriously.
That's
yeah.
totally fair.
Because there's no way looking at them. He's not going to not be a jerk. Wake up tomorrow and be like, yeah, I've been an asshole. I'm just going to not be an asshole anymore. Like,
For sure.
Guys like him, that's not how that works.
So I don't know. I wonder if other people feel the way. If any of you guys have seen this movie, reach out to us.
This obscure.
I mean, it's not obscure, but I don't know. I want to hear from the listeners. Yeah, if you think that this is a hopeful ending, let us know. If you think it's not, let us know, and we will discuss next time.
Yeah.
I'm caught in a weird way because I feel like I read up on it and I was like, oh, that's what it is. So I'm confused now because I was on your boat until I started reading about it. You know what I mean? And that can really mess up a person's perspectives about art and movies.
Well,
not mess up, but like
no, yeah.
give you new perspective.
Right. No, absolutely. I think while watching this movie, I was like, if they try to do something that's happy or even kind of like happy ambiguous, I'm going to hate this. And so, but I didn't read into this ending as being happy so much.
Interesting. But the Pompeii thing is
yes.
cool.
Because that's where she has the breakdown.
That's where she breaks down.
Yeah.
So what would be the point of that whole third act if they were like, when he says, let's get a divorce, they're actually going to get a divorce?
What's the point of them going through with a divorce?
No, what's the point of like that third act of like, we're going to Pompeii and she's breaking down and then we're in this crowd?
Yeah, I think, you might be right in terms of Rossellini probably
Like
did intend it.
intention, I
Right,
mean.
intention. But I mean, that's the great thing about art, right? Like you can look at something and even though the artist intended one thing, your read into it is your read into it.
Yeah.
And it's like, yeah. But if that was his intention, I think it's foolish.
We should have gotten Isabella on.
We should have gotten Isabella.
That's you know what? She's really active on Instagram. I'm gonna message her when we do the episode. I'm gonna send it to her.
Do it. We're like lukewarm. We're like, yeah, it's all right. It's I. Hello, Miss Queen Isabella. Your two legendary parents made an IT movie.
No, Stromboli's really good. I think Stromboli's.
Yeah, I remember liking that one more. It's been a
great.
while. It's been like 10 years since I've seen that.
You and your 10 years. We didn't talk about like the tours that Catherine is taking.
One of my favorite parts of the movie.
It's great. It's great. And the hilarious commentary by all her tour guides.
So, without fail, every time.
I know.
As you referenced in the beginning.
It's so good. And I love the way the museum is shot. The first one we see is the museum. Major contempt vibes, right? With all the statues and stuff.
Oh, the statues.
They're great. I love the way that museum is shot. I love the music in that scene.
Yes.
The tour guide, when it's like the dancers right at the end, he's like, the fourth one looks just like my daughter Maria. And he's just like in the background and we're looking at this like ancient piece of art.
Yeah.
It's so funny. And then he says something about like the drunk, right? The statue of the drunk. And we're looking at the statue of the drunk. Meanwhile, in the background, this guy's going, sleep is a wonderful habit.
They're a cast of characters.
They're
these
such
guys.
clowns.
Yeah.
Don't you agree, lady? He
Yeah.
says that at one point.
Do they work for the museums or are these people that just hang out? Like
100%
people here,
they just hang out.
right?
Yeah.
Like
They
Home
just hang
Depot
out.
people
Yes,
here.
exactly. They are loitering.
Yeah. I don't see her pay any of them.
She must have had to pay him after the tour.
Right?
But then the other one, the one where he's like, I'm not going up there. Have fun.
It's too windy. It's too windy.
And then that's the cave of Sybil, right? When he's like, yes, a fortress. That's what I said.
Yeah.
He's funny. And then the cigarette guy is like, he's younger, so he's not as funny or quirky. He's more just like, look at this cool trick.
I love in movies when people go on tours because it's such a relatable thing.
Oh my God.
We all do it.
So, I know.
And it's also like adds to the...
It's showing us a new place.
It's showing us a new place. Exactly. It's, one of the reasons you watch movies.
Yeah, definitely.
What would a tour of it looked like at this point in
They're just
1954?
crazy. Yeah, I haven't even thought about that. Yeah, there were guys hanging out in the lobby and saying, hey, you need a guide? I'll be it.
Yeah.
What did you think, though, of the music? I thought the music, like, there was this recurring theme of, like, a guy singing. And I thought it was a little distracting at points because you couldn't tell if it was diegetic or non-diegetic.
So it's non-diegetic?
Like, I think it's score. Yeah, I don't think it's diegetic.
Oh, well, I'm just realizing that for the first time. I always assumed some guy was like off camera singing.
But it made no sense because it would cut between scenes even.
Right. Oh.
But then
Did it?
at some moments, it was getting quieter when you moved into a room. It was honestly confusing to me. I don't know.
I don't know either.
Because it would be like she's in the car and it's like, who's singing?
Yeah, good question.
I don't know. I thought it was a bit distracting, to be honest.
It almost seemed like a non-Italian person made it, and they're just like, "Oh, what do they do in Italy? There's always some Italian guy off camera singing." But no, Rossellini directed
Rossellini's
it.
Italian. But the movie does do this really cool thing with like it intercuts from him to her to him to her. Like it really builds tension in moments. Like the moment where he lights that woman's cigarette when they go to dinner with their friends, and she's like nervously watching, and it keeps cutting between the two of them.
Oh, yeah.
There's the moment when they go to the party and he gets distracted by her laughing, right? She's having a good time and then it cuts to him and it's back to her. Like, that's great. The ultimate one is when she's pretending to be asleep, right? Or she's sleeping on the couch when he comes back from Capri and it's like cutting between the two. And I'm like, someone talk.
Yeah.
I love it.
Yeah, that's great.
That was really
good.
good.
The inability to communicate is like, that's the movie.
It is.
This movie might as well be called Lost in Translation.
Maybe. Or Normal People.
Normal People.
Did you ever see Normal People?
No, I haven't seen it.
It's basically about like not knowing how to communicate.
Oh, okay.
I mean, that's very simplistic, but that's a big issue the couple have. They just like, and you smack your head, you're like, guys, just talk.
I think it's a lot of couples.
Yeah.
You know?
What else do I have? I think that might be it, honestly.
I don't have anything else.
And that's it.
Do you want to do Sight and Sound?
Yeah.
What's your favorite site from Journey to Italy?
So there was a few. One of them was just Ingrid Bergman sunbathing. Like when she's just sitting in the sun, like has anyone ever been more beautiful? Really? No one has. So like literally just her. And then, but my real one is actually a combined sight and sound.
I have one too.
I wonder if it's the same one. It's when she's on the roof.
Yes.
Temple of Apollo.
Yes, Temple of Apollo.
So it's that because she's on this roof and it's windy and she like fabulously puts on her sunglasses and the music is gorgeous there.
Yeah, it's beautiful music there because she's been touring the echoey chambers and they're like, the guys shouting, the tour guide shouting, and they can hear the echo. And then she's like, I'm going to go up to the top. And the guy's like, yeah, it's too windy. See you later. And so she goes up by herself and has this really poignant moment and the music swells and it's a beautiful moment.
It is. Should we listen?
Yeah, this is what it sounds like.
All men are alike.
So I had that, but then I also had another sound, which you just touched upon. And it's the moment where the tour guide, continuing the series of ridiculous tour guides, he is taking her through this cave, right? And he is telling her to pay attention to a certain phenomenon. And here it is.
Listen to the echo. Oh!
Yes, I hear it. Wonderful.
In ancient times, you could hear it much louder when the walls were covered with bronze.
It's so good.
Yeah, it's good.
It's so good.
I want to see that guy's movie.
I died. Did you laugh at that part? I was
course.
like dying.
Yeah, of course. I want to see a movie about him like Perfect Days, but just like him as a tour guide.
And have you noticed there's no one else around?
Yeah.
No one else. She's the only one touring.
Yeah, Stromboli has that feel too. But again, Stromboli, it's like a remote part where this is like, Naples and stuff.
Yeah.
So it's like
Napoli. In Napoli. Where boy meets girl is what they say.
The best pizza I had in Italy was in Naples.
Really?
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, it's isn't it famous for that?
Yeah, Napoleon pizza.
Yeah.
Yeah. Pauline. All right, we do have a Pauline clip.
I'm nervous.
This one's brief.
I'm nervous.
But we do have our girl Pauline weighing in on the film. Roberto Rossellini made this study of A Marriage in Trouble, starring Ingrid Bergman and George Sanders. In the film's finest scene, the couple visit Pompeii and see two petrified, embracing bodies that have just been uncovered. An influential film, there are echoes of it in both Godard's Contempt and Bergman's The Touch, which is marred by banality and clumsiness. That's the entire thing. I like the banal. I like how banal it is. I think that's a strength. Clumsiness. Yeah. I mean, we touched on a few things. You were talking about her talking to herself, or like.
I'm trying to pinpoint what it is that I found underwhelming. Because even La Ventura, like, there's not much happens. They're kind of just like wandering around.
But there's more to La Ventura.
Yeah.
It's much richer.
Yeah, maybe.
And it's like double the length.
I want to see the 105-minute one, the Italian one.
Yeah, I wonder if if Criterion has the 88-minute one, I wonder if the longer one is gone. Because you would think Criterion would, if the other one was available, that they would present that one.
Yeah.
I don't know.
It's strange.
Letterboxd?
Yeah. 3 stars. I really relate to Ingrid Bergman's character in this movie because she's constantly grumbling to herself about how she hates all men except this one dead poet she used to know.
1.5 stars. Starting low. Sledgehammer symbolism. City documentary at the drama's expense and an unnecessary happy end. George Sanders' acting style sucks big time. You know, I think it's just the character. I think this person too, maybe they get the sense that George Sanders' acting style belongs to a slightly more old-fashioned era than Ingrid Bergman, because Ingrid Bergman in anything she's in always feels kind of so modern and stuff. Mm-hmm. But also I think that's kind of the point. He's the stuffy British guy. Stuffy.
I think it's the character for sure. Like he's so fun and All About Eve. Oh my God.
Yeah, exactly.
He's so fun.
Yeah.
Greg, this is you. 3.5 stars. Didn't realize how cynical I was until a happy ending made me angry.
Yeah.
So because you're refusing to even accept that it's a happy ending.
Yeah, no way. It's not. I can't do it. 3 stars. Really wanted to love this. Despite the very good performances and filmmaking, this film failed to really grab my attention. I'm sorry, but it was just boring. The characters never interested me. But there are some really great performances in this movie. Don't get me wrong. I just didn't have much interest. I get it.
But isn't it frustrating when this happens and you can't really put your finger on what it is that...
It's just not enough. It's not quite enough.
Underwhelming. Like,
yeah.
But why?
Even though I said I had no notes earlier.
You did.
Well, I gave this 4 stars on Letterboxd, but I really went back and forth between a 4 and a 3.5. Maybe a 3.75 if they allowed that. That would have been like, that's what I give this movie.
This is why I don't do this anymore. 4 stars. I'll end it on a good note. This movie slowly drew me in as I adjusted to the pacing and rhythm. I love watching Ingrid Bergman wander through Italy, a beautiful film about 2 people who are so deeply fragile and insecure that they are terrified to say what they need most and are caught instead in a cycle of inflicting pain and trying to pretend they aren't hurt. Running from vulnerability leads to heartbreak.
Wow.
That's a good one.
Yeah, it is a good one. I'll also end on a positive note. This one just has a heart, and it says clouds, rocks, glances to a person, both reciprocated and not reciprocated, history, faces, crazy lighting patterns, both man-made and not. It's all here, folks.
Wow, that's great. You know what we didn't talk about?
What?
The catacombs.
Oh, yeah. When I was there, not Naples, where was this? I think I was in
Rome. I saw it in Rome. I saw one.
I think it was in Rome too. I didn't go to the main catacombs. We went to a cooler one. It was called the Capuchin Crypt. And believe it or not, the Capuchins,
I went to that one
cappuccino
too.
comes from Capuchin. Anyway, wait, did you go to that one?
I think so.
Where everything was made of bones?
Familiar. Yes, yeah.
So there was like a chandelier made of bones?
I hated that place.
Yeah, you couldn't take pictures in there.
I hated it. It was scary. I didn't like it.
It was all these skeletons, and all the furniture and decor was made of bones. So like the
morbid.
walls would be lined with bones, and then they'd have chandeliers made of like finger bones and all this stuff. And
hate that.
It's fascinating. Surprisingly, though, it didn't feel like the Texas Chainsaw Massacre. Like it felt special.
What does that have to do with the Texas Chainsaw Massacre?
Because there's like furniture made of bones. Like it didn't feel gross.
Oh, I haven't.
It didn't feel gross, is what I meant.
Right.
Yeah. The Capuchin Crypt.
I hate that. I hated it there. I hated it. I don't even know how I survived.
But yeah, that's a great moment because the camera really does linger on the skeletons and skulls and things. And yeah, the death of the marriage, right?
The death of the marriage, yeah.
Should have just ended on that note.
Imagine the movie ended there.
Like a skull is like the last shot. Talk about on the nose. You know, sometimes though, I do love an end that's just like blatantly just like obvious, but sometimes it feels nice, right? Like the end of North by Northwest with the train. It's like
great.
Perfect. It hits you over the head, but guess what? Perfect.
I love it.
Sometimes you need that.
It's so good.
Or like, not even like I love the movie, but The Departed ends with like the rat scurrying past. I'm like, great.
That is, yeah.
You know?
Yeah.
It's like the kind of thing when you're writing, you're like, that's too much. But sometimes you need someone to push you, be like, you know what? It's just enough.
For sure.
Well, that was Journey to Italy.
That was Journey to Italy.
Next week, what are we doing? I believe we're doing The Mother and the Whore.
I thought we were doing personal print.
We're doing a personal print. So let's keep it a secret.
Okay.
Like we used to do.
Did we used to do
Yeah, we did.
It's been so long.
So it's been almost a year since we've done a personal print. The last one was when I did Midnight Cowboy. I think it was last July.
It was 4th of July.
Yeah. So you now are picking a personal print. You're keeping it a secret. I know what it is. No one else knows.
You're in trouble.
And I guess we'll post clues about it on social media, although I feel like
it's going to give it away so quick if you do.
But yeah, all will be revealed. So come back next week. Let's say it's beloved. We can say that, right?
Oh, I was joking. It's the most comforting thing you could ever watch.
Yeah. And it's a beloved film.
Yeah.
So a widely seen beloved film.
So good.
Until next week, I'm Greg.
I'm Jackie.
And we'll see you next time.
Bye.
Special thanks to the patrons at our highest tier, John Pennington and Cynthia Fordwell. Seen and Heard is an official podcast of the Arroyo Film Club. We'd love to hear from you. If you want to drop us a line, you can find us on email at hello@seenandheardpod.com or on Instagram @seenandheardpod.